Okay, today the reason we called this press conference, in the last, since Saturday, early Saturday morning, we've had 3 shootings, 2 resulting in homicides. And I want to briefly go over those shootings and then get into some particulars. Early morning Saturday, the first homicide of Luis Santiago, 26-year-old male, that occurred in the 800 block of East Chestnut Street. Apparently there was a house party going on, and an individual shot this male, and that's the first case. And we've been working on that tirelessly for days now, and we've made significant progress in that case. We did get cooperation from people that were privy to information or witnesses. However, the information at first was a little slow getting to us for whatever reason. The second incident, which resulted in the homicide of Edward Cameron, 30-year-old male, occurred in the 600 block of Mifflin Street, of East Mifflin. Apparently, earlier, there was a fight at the Rainmakers Club on East Chestnut Street, resulted in multiple people being engaged in a fist fight brawl. And apparently, our victim in this case left that area. From information that we gathered, he wasn't involved in the fight, and he may not even have been at the club. But however, apparently he's friendly with one faction that was involved in the fight, and apparently while he was walking in that area, he ends up being shot to death. The shooting from last night, early this morning actually, right on midnight, occurred in a 200 block of East Fulton Street. And in that case, the victim is in grave condition at this point with a gunshot wound to the head. And from what we've gathered, we've been, obviously, as if we wouldn't already have our hands full with the homicide over the weekend, we've been working around the clock on all these cases. And the second 2, from what we've gathered in our intelligence, it appears that the third shooting last night is in retaliation of the homicide from a couple of nights ago. At this point, we've literally received almost no cooperation from associates, friends, family, close family. In fact, it's gotten to the point of really ridiculousness, because these are individuals that get involved in a fist fight, and now you have 2 groups rallying behind and looking for, they're hell-bent on violence and retaliation. We're getting information on that part of it. To give you an example, a person close to our shooting victim last night, when asked by the detectives, and I'm going to be very blunt to make a point, that person replied to the detective, "F you, I'm not saying anything." Well, this victim is laying in the hospital near death, most likely, and people close to this individual choose not to say anything about it. So what you have here is you have 2 groups of out-of-control people, gun-toting hoodlums that are hell-bent on violence and death. Now, I don't expect any cooperation from them, because it's obvious what their mentality is. It's obvious they have no regard for anybody in their inner circle or any citizen of this city. However, all these individuals are connected to somebody, whether it's mother, father, sister, brother, close friend, mentor, that does know what these individuals are engaged in. And it's pretty obvious that most of them are carrying guns on a regular basis. And that's the people that we're targeting, that we hope to get information from, because clearly they could help put a stop to what is inevitable if we don't make an arrest in both of these cases. And we're not going to make an arrest when people clearly have information and know what happened, know who's got the guns, know who the shooters are, and they're choosing not to say anything. So that's not going to stop us from the mission that we have to do. Again, we've been working around the clock on all 3 of these cases, and we're determined to get to a conclusion. We've reviewed tons of video and reviewing even more. And as in most of our cases, at some point we're going to get the right piece of video. And at some point, somebody that is a decent person is actually going to give us the information we need to tie all of these cases up. Back to the first case, when I say significant progress, we feel that we're close to identifying the killer. And at that point, even though we did get cooperation on that, it was a little forthcoming. And when information is slowed like that, that's giving the individual that commits a murder a chance to flee the area. We don't know if that's the case in this one, but in my experience, when people choose to withhold information, you're giving that murderer time to think of an alibi or intimidate potential witnesses or literally just blanket a community with fear. Because the longer it takes to arrest an individual like this, the less some folks are willing to cooperate. So our office and the district attorney's office are working together on this as always. And at some point, I know that we're going to get the piece of evidence we need. And we're going to get that with or without the cooperation of the people that are around these individuals that are victims and the man laying in the hospital as we speak. So at this point, if the district attorney has any comments, I'll let District Attorney Craig Stedman step forward before we take questions.
Thanks, Chief. I just have a couple things just to emphasize what the Chief's saying. Is that the longer it goes, that the individuals who are involved in this are at liberty and at large, before we can get them, the more dangerous it is to the community. And the society, our community, has to make a decision about what kind of environment do they want to live in. There's a real danger here of it spiraling even more out of control, and how many people have to die. How many people have to die before somebody comes forward and says, I know something? Because right now, based on what we know about this, I can tell you there are dozens of people out there who know something about at least one or more of these crimes and are not coming forward. In fact, they're defiant to the police officer. And I think that is something that's we've always had problems with the people involved in the crimes coming forward, but now it's people that are close to those individuals that are telling the officers what you heard the chief say. And that will change our society. We've got to deal with this. The police are going to do all they can, but they are limited to witnesses. They weren't there. The cameras will certainly help, and we'll do what we can with it, but this is a real challenge with the community, and we don't want anyone else to die. We'll update you on the progress. I think a broader issue that faces us is you've got a number of young men who are not in a public safety service job, they're not in the military, walking around, putting a gun on, as the chief said, basically with the ease that they put socks on and get dressed in the morning. And nothing good is going to come from that, because what you're seeing is things that would have been resolved years ago in a fist fight are resulting in bullets and death. And it's a real challenge to our community and to our society, and we're fortunate to have the police, the dedicated officers, men and women that they have, and a great chief here, but they're limited in what they can do, and we're limited in the evidence that can come forward. So I know there's people out there who are watching this and can make a decision right now about what kind of person they want to be, what kind of person would their parents expect them, their grandparents expect them to be. Would they want them to sit idly by while people are getting shot and killed? This isn't a movie, this is real life. People are losing their lives, and we are definitely concerned that it's going to get worse before it gets better, and it will until someone comes forward. So, thank you.
I'll turn it over to Chief. Is there any questions anybody has at this
You
point?
said it was retaliation to an earlier homicide. Which one?
The second one that I mentioned that happened in the early morning hours on Monday morning, resulting from a fight that occurred inside Rainmakers Club. And the information that we have at this point is we believe that both the second and third shootings I mentioned are a result of that one incident.
Was that like two known groups, or was that just a bunch of people? You mentioned that the victim was friends with one side. Are there like gangs? Or
Yeah, as far as we gathered at this point, the deceased, Edward Cameron, came to the scene of Rainmakers after the fight was over. From what we understand, he was not involved in the fight, but however, because apparently he's associated with one faction of the crew involved in the fight, Apparently the other faction, I guess since they couldn't find the people that they had to fight with, they, guilt by association. So, I mean, that's the mentality that we're dealing with. So these individuals, it's one thing when they get into a fight and they want to get retaliation on the guy that beat the crap out of them, but this is the type of mentality, well, let's get his friends too. So, I mean, that's what we're dealing with. And as the DA said, until people on their perimeter come forward and give that information, more of that could likely happen. And our biggest concern, frankly, from my perspective, this is my own personal feeling, individuals involved in this type of behavior, if they get shot and they die, that's a shame for their family, but nobody in this building is going to shed any tears. Who we shed tears for? People that have absolutely nothing to do with this element, that are minding their business, in their home, walking down their street, coming to work, going out for a night of entertainment, that end up getting shot by people like this. That's who we shed a tear for. Individuals that have this gunplay. I wish it was that easy. I wish that we could guarantee that people engaged in this kind of activity would only kill each other. But that's not what usually happens. It's always somebody that had nothing to do with it that ends up shot. And in this case, the second individual, Mr. Cameron, it appears that he had absolutely nothing to do with the initial incident. Yet, he's dead because another faction decided, that they were going to retaliate no matter who it involved. So where do they draw the line? Do they go after mothers and grandmoms, go after kids next? So, there's no telling. So I can't stress how important it is for people to come forward.
A 21-year-old who was shot late last night, are you releasing his name? And then just to make sure, the third shooting is in retaliation for the second shooting?
Yes, that's the intelligence that we've gathered at this point. And unless we hear something different, that's pretty much what we believe at this point.
Are you releasing his name?
No, he's in the hospital, and I don't think all notifications have been properly made, so we're not going to release that name at this point.
So you believe people who were in Edward Cameron's faction, as you call it, went after the 21-year-old then?
Yeah, at this point, that's exactly what we believe.
I had heard that the 21-year-old had a gun in his hand after he was shot. Can you confirm that at all?
You're talking about last night?
Yeah, last night.
No, that I can't confirm. And at this point, he's in grave danger, and obviously we can't interview him. But, somebody does know something, and we'd like to find that out.
So there was a house fight on the Saturday, right? There was a house fight, then there was another brawl, so there's been two brawls, is that right?
Yeah, the first homicide I mentioned on 800 East Chestnut is not connected to the second and third incident
Okay.
we're talking about.
All right, I just
But the similarity is the same type of mentality. Something doesn't go your way, you don't like an individual because he, maybe beat you in a fist fight or he looked at you funny, decides that in front of a crowded house, a house party, in other words, there's more than 3 people there. It's a holiday weekend, the house is loaded with individuals, and the person that shot this gentleman decided in front of a big crowd in a house party he would pull out a gun and shoot somebody to death. Well, I can only, guess that this individual that did the shooting probably thinks, well, nobody in this house is going to say anything because A, they're either scared, or B, they don't really give a crap, or C, they're oblivious to what's going on in their surroundings. But that individual's wrong because, again, I'll say significant progress because we're on the trail and that individual's going to be gotten. And you'll get updated on that as soon as we get updated. But the second and third incident deeply concern all of us, and that's why we're having this press conference, because we're hoping that somebody out there realizes the sensible thing to do and that they give us the information we're looking for.
Are these gangs, are they identified as, I don't know that world, but are they identified in any way by you guys?
At this point, not really, because the first homicide doesn't seem to be connected to any type of gang violence. The second and third, maybe not gangs in a traditional sense where people are wearing colors and jackets, but certainly gangs, the fact that 2 groups of people have decided to arm up and go after each other. So, that's clearly a definition of a dangerous street gang, whether they have a name to themselves or, you know, they're just out there, so.
Are they young? I mean, this guy, Edward Cameron, he was 30.
Yeah,
so
it's the
they're
same
usually-
scenario. Almost every case when I've stood in front of this podium involved young men in their late teens to mid-20s, and it's like, you know, it's a cliche at this point, but that seems to be the age group that's out of control.
And so you're worried there will be more. There's already been one retaliation. We think that this could keep going.
Well, exactly, and that's why we're here right now. We're hoping that this appeals to some people that realize that they do have information, and you know, there's so many ways to get a hold of us. You know, I understand on a crowded street that somebody's not going to walk up to the police and start telling us things, but through internet, through phone, there's so many avenues to get us the information. So that's what we're hoping for in this particular press conference.
And even if you guys find the suspects, and obviously that's what you're hoping to do, who's to say that this isn't gonna happen again in the future? What are you guys going to do to prevent crime in the city?
Well, you know, if I had an answer to that question, I would be a billionaire at this point, because it would take